let's just start off with a very basic question, right? We know that in many ways, Open RAN hasn't quite lived up to some of the lofty expectations. But as you sit here in 2026, maybe, Michael, from your perspective, I mean, where do we see it this year? Like, do we think it is doing well? And more importantly, like, what does that mean? And how do you feel from a faith perspective in terms of the longevity of Open RAN solutions?
Mhm. I think that Open RAN was first time a buzzword here, must have been last decade, must have been shortly before COVID or so, right? Then it was the big one, and this year it's AI. Back then it was Open RAN. So what I s- what I'm what I see is that the big hype that it was in the beginning has not materialized as much as we hoped it should, right? It was a big bet for us as well, right? To build a network when we decided to start it in 21 to build it with Open RAN and not a legacy network. And one need to say it worked very well, right? We have the biggest Open RAN network in terms of customers, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, we have 12.5 million customers on Open RAN, not in terms of base stations, but in terms of customers. And I think we managed our way. We did reasonably good, but the big promises that have been taken with Open RAN, we are still anxiously waiting for it, and we wanna materialize it. Nevertheless, having said that, for a greenfielder like us, it was the best decision, and it is still the best decision, and we never regretted it.
Well, I mean, maybe just really quickly, actually, sure. I mean, how do you think about it? Obviously you invested a lot in it, particularly when you look at Rakuten Mobile, you look to expand it. Same feeling in terms of some of those benefits, is still waiting to see them.
See, of course, there are clear benefits of Open RAN, but to your previous point, whether it has failed, whether it was hype, excuse me. So three networks are built in last 5 years or 6 years: RMI, one-on-one, and Dish. All three were based on Open RAN. So it's given that every new greenfield network, wherever it comes, will be, if it is at scale, it will be Open RAN. Point number one. Point number two: any operator has to have a reason to go to Open RAN, right? If 5G is already deployed, unless there is a regulatory reason, why would somebody deploy Open RAN? When Open RAN got matured, and that's, when one-on-one and us and Dish uh, did, at scale, that's when it was proven that it will work. Otherwise, there were many myths around it, whether it will work or not. Now people need a reason why to deploy, right? So any new network, be it, we are doing many POCs. If there is a new operator coming for FWA, they are looking to deploy it.
So I guess then maybe let's just take a step back there, right? Because you call it, Michael, sort of, we haven't seen some of the promises materialize, and it hasn't necessarily scaled as much globally as we might have expected. What is the impact of that? Is there a real impact of that? Or does that, whether or not it's a global success, does that really impact your
No,
business?
no, it does not. No, I mean we kept our plan. We kept our obligation was to migrate 12.5 million customers from MVNO to MNO. We kept that plan perfectly. We achieved our coverage goals. So we are. I would say we did exactly as we planned to do it. But when it comes to the innovation speed, and I'm looking at it from the perspective of an end customer. And I was hoping to be even faster than I am. I see Open RAN development picking up speed very much in recent years. But I hope that, the big innovations will come from us, not from my competitors. So that's always like a bit of a peak sink in my stomach when somebody else doing innovation, which I'm not doing yet. And I think that speed, that innovation speed, that still needs to be picked up. Nevertheless, let me add one more thing. The factor of independency, or the not being bound to one vendor, especially now, unfortunately, over the last days, the political developments all over the world, it's unpredictable, right? It's really unpredictable. In the past years, it was important not to depend on Chinese vendors. I don't know if that will ever, be it east or west, whomever, it could turn in every direction, every moment. And Open RAN gives us the possibility to not be that dependent on one, but to have possibilities to exchange, possibilities to find out a way how we can move along, independently how the political situation turns in which direction. And that one, I need to say, has so far perfectly worked, right? We are really sitting in a network with 100 different partners, and that promise was kept.
And particularly out of Europe, right? I think it is fair to your point of when we first started talking Open RAN, it was in the initial days of the CSA and rip and replace efforts, and we're now revisiting that. So I think that came about. I mean, so you hit two benefits, right? Innovation speed, supply chain diversity. Maybe what sort of innovation were you looking for? Because we talk about this, right? And I think that was always put out there as being more open, you get a broad system, you get competition, you get innovation. But at a very basic level, what types of innovations or what are you looking at?
Sharad slides from before. Right? If you bring them to me. No, really, is it working still? Yeah, it's working. Energy efficiency, for example, or the whole satellites topic is really, really interesting. And that's why I think that speed is now picking up, but it has not developed the last 5 years like we hoped for. But I think that, that's nothing unnormal. You have this hype curve, then you go into reality, and now we're going back into picking speed up. As I said, we never regretted our choice for Open RAN. That was the best thing we could do.
How about from an innovation perspective, Sharad? I mean, obviously Michael's looking at you and going, bring me some more of what you're doing.
See, we are colleagues as operator, but I am also a vendor to him, or partner to him. But so I have to deliver what he's asking. And one thing I would say is, because it's not at scale, so the kind of price competitiveness that we can get in Open RAN is still not there. Mainly because of the RU players, because RU is commodity, and unless you have scale, you cannot get the prices down. So, but if it is at scale, if we get 3-4 more networks, then we can get the price much lower.
And you see, please, maybe if I add to that, the whole Open RAN ecosystem, that would be so important. I'm welcoming Vodafone now that they announced to do a European big Open RAN installation. Deutsche Telekom, Telefonica, Orange announced big Open RAN. I'm really welcoming that, because then it scales, and then an ecosystem develops, and then we might have European champions that are championing the software for Open RAN, and the choice is getting bigger for the benefit, especially of us.
Yeah.
So it's really important that more join us, because then it gets really interesting.
Because ultimately, I think what you're highlighting is something we probably don't talk about. Those two sides of those benefits that you called out, right? Supply chain diversity, innovation. In theory, those aren't separate benefits, right? In theory, those are essentially one and the same, where if we get more supply chain diversity, that should drive more innovation. I think maybe one thing we haven't talked about here in innovation, it seems like last year was the case, the year before, this year, we sort of can't talk about any of this without talking about AI. Do you see benefits, particularly if we're looking at Open RAN, coming from also a virtual RAN? I mean, because you obviously don't need to do virtual RAN to do Open RAN, but in greenfield, you likely would. Does that make it easier to implement AI technologies?
I hope so. I need to say I hope so, because I mean, our journey we're just at the beginning, right? If you think of our network as a kind of a skyscraper, we just built the foundation now, and now we're building the first floor. If we're really at the beginning. We did our homework, we achieved our obligations, we migrated all the customers. That was really foundation, and now it's time to build the house. And I do believe, yes, our disaggregated software, hardware, disaggregated architecture is helping us, but it needs still to be proven. That's fact.
So let me add to it, not necessarily Open RAN, but yes, the cloud native network, and where you have the DU and CU with the open APIs, that will help on the AI side, because that's how you can have the intent-based algorithms working there. If it is traditional black box, it's very difficult. But same thing, not necessarily Open RAN, but cloud native RAN.
But likely, if you are greenfield and you're doing this with Open RAN, you're likely to go in that direction from the beginning anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that strikes me as we talk as an industry about maybe Open RAN isn't moving fast enough Do you think the industry understands how big of a change this is from how we built networks? Because I think every time I hear someone that say it's not moving fast enough and it should have been farther, I do take a step back and say we are talking about a completely new way to some, I mean, of building networks that we haven't done in the past. Do you think that's sort of where the industry kind of falls short and going, this is a fundamental shift in the way networks were built, and so of course it's going to take time?
See, again, if operators are already deployed 4G, 5G network, what's the need of Open RAN? Unless there is a need to rip and replace, or someone is deploying new 5G as a overlay, or building new greenfield network. There's not enough money to rip and replace. Even whatever promise of RAN or cloud RAN. End of the day, it's about money. So there has to be a reason why to deploy. And when this got matured, in most of the developed countries, 5G was already deployed.
I do believe operators are really not knowing that they underestimate it. So now the other big ones, the Vodafone ones and the telecom ones, they are now going into Open RAN. And I hope they don't underestimate the effort it takes, because it takes effort, and it takes different way of working. It takes different way of procurement style, right? It's not one partner that ships everything. It takes different talents. I'm a telco guy on my own, I'm a telco engineer. I would not be sufficient with my knowledge for what it takes, because it also takes a lot of what we call former IT knowledge, cloud knowledge. I mean, who in telecommunication is a cloud expert? I have not seen so many. And this is now exactly what we are gathering. We in our team, I can speak for my team, we are gathering really multinational talents from all over the world and picking cloud experts here and traditional core network experts there and radio there. It's a different breed of teams that you need, that this is getting successful everywhere, commercially, technically, everywhere.
Are you seeing progress on that front though?
Yeah. Yes, because we are educating our own team. So we are growing our talents on our own. That's what I see. It's not like that you get, I don't know how you feel about it, but the biggest talents we have in our team, they are, not growing on trees. It starts already there when you start looking for your people. I'm rewriting those job positions multiple times, because I always need to a twist here, and he needs to have that one. He needs to be a cloud expert that knows radio, has worked in a core network operator. It's really intense, and yeah, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, I'll say I think, and maybe now we look a little bit going forward before we take any of the harder questions. I mean, I'll say I feel a little bit optimistic, right? I mean, if we look at last week or the last few weeks, just giving one example from a different company, right? Ericsson talked about their work with SMO, launching Power Apps, with some of that with AWS. And it seems like moving in the right direction, particularly when it's a large incumbent vendor like that. And we can't forget that SMO RApps born out of Open RAN, right? Although you can apply it to non-Open RAN networks, it wouldn't have happened without that. So it does seem like to some extent the industry is moving in the right direction. But maybe for you, Sharad, how do you see Open RAN feeding into some of those other priorities you have for 2026? You talked about the importance of SA and getting SA out there, right? You talked about NTN, and maybe when you're done with that, we could talk about, Michael's got an ambitious plan to launch 6G. But maybe we could talk about 6G as well. But I mean, how do you see Open RAN supporting all of those things for your ambitions?
See, I'll touch upon the previous thing that you said. Of course, people are talking about SMO RIC, but they are not talking about what are the applications? Are those real time or non-real time? Still, without Open RAN, what happens to real time applications? It can only happen with Open RAN, genuine Open RAN. So, on touching upon the other thing that you said, for Rakuten Mobile, of course, NTN, direct to device, and 5G SA are the key things. We could have launched 5G SA before, but there was no substantial gain based on the spectrum that we have. But now, as subscribers are increasing, we have limited 4G spectrum, so we want to go to 5G SA.
From your perspective?
No, maybe shortly touching on 6G.
And obviously, I know it's a bit early, so maybe we talk.
yeah, it's early. Yeah.
Maybe we talk 5G advanced. I mean, as you look at evolving, what you've done with 5G going forward.
Equally, we will be launching 5GSA also this year, and for equal reasons, right? With our spectrum assets that we have, there was no big need for bringing 5GSA earlier. But generally, when we talk about 6G and what will it be and what will it not be, my hypothesis is that those 10-year rhythms of 4G, 5G, 6G, I think that will be a bit broken up in the future, because you have a cloudified network. You can pick and choose whatever you need. Like we have opted not to use 5GSA early, and maybe we will opt to use, I don't know, in the packet core domain, not 6G, but in the voice domain, yes, or vice versa. I think it will be more differentiated. It will not be that big bang anymore. And it can be done with our architecture because it's software, hardware differentiated. I think that's easier in the future.
You can be more granular based
Will
on
be more granular based on
what
the
your
needs.
customers need.
Yes.
Exactly. Based on market need.
Yeah.
Fine.
So, if you were to take a step back, and someone were coming to you, and you said you're optimistic for European operators moving in that direction, I mean, what advice would you give to them? So, what have you learned? And maybe you wouldn't, because because they're a competitor. But if someone was coming to you and saying, "Hey, like, I get it, I want to do this. What can help them succeed, or what can help?" And then, as they succeed, driving the broader ecosystem.
I don't like them to succeed in all their business areas, but in Open RAN, I would like to have them succeed. Oh, the biggest advice is resistance, because it takes effort, right? And we had our learnings, we had our down sides, we had our problems, we had our outages, so we learned a lot and we went through a lot of pain, but we went through it, and we as I said, resistance and the old traditional ways are not working anymore. Not if you deploy something like that, and stay on the ball. It will all be good in the end. And if it's not good, it's not the end. So that's it.
Sharad, how about you?
See, it's software, right? Software will have issues and it can be fixed overnight.
Yeah.
So we keep fixing every night. That's the beauty about ORAD, right? Where if you go to traditional without naming anyone, it's a cycle. Once in a quarter or once in 6 months you do upgrade. But with this flexible, you can do something like I always say you do. Netflix does. During the day they do upgrade online without any interruption. So that's a feature for ORAD.